Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 319. I almost forgot what number I was on. There's been so many. It's hard to keep track. How are you this week? I am doing great. I hope you are having a great running week. I am. I went on a fabulous trail run yesterday in new shoes, which I am going to have two, not one, but two running shoe reviews after the topic this week. Yes, it was my birthday this past weekend, and I did buy myself some new shoes, and I tried them out, and I'll tell you all about it after the topic that I'm going to talk about right now. There are moments in history that we're taught about in school that we never forget. We know them all by heart. The discovery of fire, the invention of the wheel, the first man on the moon, the first computer. These kind of things we remember and we never forget, and they are huge moments in the history of human beings. And the same goes for running. There are moments, and they could just last a second or two, when running is changed forever. I'm going to go over a few of these this week and talk about what happened and how they changed the running world. And these won't be in historic order. I'm much too disorganized for that. So some of them may be, but don't expect them all to be. The very first Olympic Games. Okay, let's start at the very, very beginning. The biggest, I would say the number one biggest running moment in history has to be the very first Olympic Games. It happened in 776 BC in the religious sanctuary of Olympia. In honor of Zeus, the Greeks gave these Olympic Games. There were a variety of different events. They were held every 4 years, and only men could participate or even watch. And the participants were all naked, by the way. Now that led to the first modern Olympic Games, which were in 1896, and they were revived and held at Athens in respect to those ancient Olympic Games. 14 nations were involved, and 241 athletes participated. In the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, Jesse Owens was one of the stars of the United States team. Hitler thought he had everything in the bag, that his superior race, quote unquote, especially in the running events, would win everything. And I'll do a whole episode on Jesse Owens in the future. Jesse Owens shocked and disappointed Hitler in the Third Reich. Now, the NAACP president at the time tried to talk Owens out of going because he said it was going to be too difficult, it was going to be very hard for him, and racially he would be hurtful and all this stuff. But Owens said no, he refused to be intimidated by the Nazis and wanted to prove how good he was. And so we are all the better for it, I think. I'm so glad that Owens was strong and courageous enough to go, to stick it to Hitler. Owens won 4 gold medals in the 100 meter, 200 meter, 4x100 meter relay, and the long jump. And after Owens' victories, Hitler refused to congratulate any winners because the Olympic Committee had told him that he had to congratulate all the victors, not just the German ones. So can you imagine what that would have been like? How incredibly great that would be for all the free people of the world to just shove it in Hitler's face. I think that's awesome. What a great victory for running and for free people worldwide. The first mile, under 4 minutes, was a huge event, and it showed just how fast people can be and how much faster they were going to get. During the 1950s, there was a huge competition to be the first runner to run a mile under 4 minutes. Roger Bannister of the United Kingdom and John Landy of Australia had a huge contest on this, and I did another episode previously on the mile race. Roger Bannister did it first on May 6, 1954, and John Landy followed 46 days later. And it's just been getting faster and faster and faster, and it was just set again. An indoor mile, anyway, was just set again by Jakob Ingebrigtsen of Norway. The marathon changed its distance to its modern distance that we use today. This is a big, big difference. The marathon used to be about 25 miles or 40 kilometers. The International Olympic Committee agreed in 1907 that the distance for the 1908 London Olympic Marathon was going to be 25 miles. The organizers decided on a course of 26.2 miles from the start at Windsor Castle to the royal entrance to the White City Stadium, followed by a lap of the track, finishing in front of the royal box. Of course, that added 385 yards to the same distance, so now it runs 26.2. So that's why it's today's distance of 26.2 miles, is because they had to do it in front of the royal family, don't you know? Yes, indeed. Now, the creation of the running shoe. This was a huge event in running history, where Bill Bowerman created the first running shoe and started Nike. And you can see my whole episode on Nike and the ultimate downfall in the running shoe company. I also have them listed under another event, maybe not so nice, later on in this episode, so stay tuned for that. Catherine Switzer became the first woman to run Boston Marathon. In 1967, she became the first woman to run the Boston Marathon as an officially registered competitor. Now, she had to hide that she was a woman during the race because no women were allowed to run it. There was a time in running where men thought the women couldn't handle long distances, that they would fall apart, that their female parts would just totally obliterate. Which is kind of silly if you think today, but that's what they thought. So they wouldn't allow any women to run it. It was a man's club. It was a man's race. Forget about women going. But she wanted to do it. So she ran with a sweatshirt over her, with a hoodie on, with a hood on her head, and hiding with her boyfriend, who was pretty big, protecting her. During her run, now the race manager, Jock Semple, who was not a very nice guy towards women, saw that she was a woman and assaulted her, or tried to assault her, trying to grab her bib number to remove her from the competition. After knocking down Switzer's trainer and fellow runner Arnie Briggs, who tried to protect her, Semple was shoved to the ground by Switzer's boyfriend, Thomas Miller, who was running with her, and she completed the race. So thank goodness she had her boyfriend with her to protect her. But, I mean, come on. I know this is the 60s. Things were different back then. It was a different time. It's easy to say, why do they act that way? Well, it was a different mindset, a different time, a different philosophy. I could tell you stories about when I was growing up, what people thought back then. Let me tell you. Yes, I am OLD. The first Western States. Now, the first Western States 100-mile endurance race was in 1977. It was done previously as a horse race, and then runners were added. And I do plan to do a whole episode on Western States in the future. I have not done that yet. I try to do a different episode on each big race because I think it's important to highlight each one, but I haven't gotten to that yet, and I will. It was organized by Wendell T. Roby, who also founded the Western States trail ride known as the Tevis Cup. And that was a huge, huge milestone in running to start Western States. It's known as the grand race that you either get your golden ticket or you have to get into that race by running a qualifying race. And one qualifying race gives you a 2% chance of getting picked to get in. Yeah, it's a very, very difficult race to get in, and it highlights the best runners that we have in ultra running. It's a tough race too. Even if you qualify, it's still a hard race to complete. On October 16th in 1966, two black athletes, Tommy Smith, who won the 200-meter race, and John Carlos, who finished third in the 200-meter, stood on the podium at the Mexico City Olympics, heads bowed. They wore black socks with no shoes. Smith wore a black scarf around his neck. As the U.S. national anthem played, they raised a black gloved hand in silent protest. Now, whatever you felt at the time or what you feel at the time, it was meant as a peaceful, silent protest towards the way things were at the time. Smith declared in his autobiography, Silent Gesture, published 30 years later, that his gesture was not a black power salute per se, but rather a human rights salute, and it was very powerful. It raised a lot of emotions at the time, positive and negative, but it was meant to make people aware of things that were happening. And I don't know if the Olympics is a place for that or not, and that's not my place to judge, but it is what happened, and it did make people more aware, so perhaps it was successful. It was a big moment in running, though, that's for sure. The first trail running shoes came about in 1970. The Walsh PB was the first trail-specific running shoe, and it was designed to race over sports' steep, harsh terrains. And that changed the trail running world forever. And then a lot of other running shoe companies came up with their own after that, but that was the very first one. The first women's marathon in the Olympics was huge. Joan Benoit Samuelson was the first woman to win in the Olympics women's marathon in Los Angeles in 1984. And I remember that because it was because of her that I started running. Yes, she inspired me so much that I decided that running might be something that I want to try. And after that, in 1984, is when I started running and got really into running for a while. Got a little out of it and then got back into it. Running is a thing that we can do our whole lives. You can be into it for a while, be out of it, be into it, be out of it. It just doesn't matter. Running is something that you can keep going your whole life. It's with you forever. It's like that friend that you might not talk to for a few years, and then all of a sudden you talk to again, and then you're besties again, and then it's just with you. But it's because of Samuelson that I started running, and that many, many women decided that yes, those long distances were for them, that it was okay to run marathons, that it wasn't just for men. It was a huge moment in running. The fastest woman in history, and she still is today, is Florence Griffith Joyner. She still holds the women's world record in the 100 meters and the 200 meters in 1988, and she holds it today. No one has beaten her. I did a whole episode on Florence Griffith Joyner, so you can listen to that. I think she is probably the best women's sprinter of all time, and she probably will always be. I don't think anyone's going to be better than her. Even if they break her records at some point, she still will to me, be the best women's sprinter. And no, she wasn't on steroids. I'm sorry, I will keep saying that. No. She did it clean. Now, the only person to run an under 2-hour marathon is Eliud Kipchoge in October 12th, 2019. This record was broken. He ran it in 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds in Vienna, Austria. I will have to say that there is an asterisk next to this because it wasn't done in a race. It was done where he had all these pacers around him and the pristine weather and nobody chasing him and nothing. The day was perfect, and so it had all these runners around him blocking the wind and everything. So it was like these perfect conditions. It was in a race where there were all these extra things going on. Everything was perfect. So I don't know. I mean, it shows that, yes, it can be done, but I don't know if it really counts, or is it something that we are going to say, oh, yes, it's been done, and yes, we can do this. I mean, yes, it was done, obviously, but it wasn't done in a race. So I think we need to say, yes, it can be done, but let's wait to see it done in actual competitive environment. I'm adding it here because, yes, it can be done, but I'm also saying, well, let's just wait to see who does it first in a race. Then that will be really something remarkable. Now, sexual abuses will not be tolerated, and this came up a few years ago with Nike, and that's why I said I would mention Nike again, because my disappointment and distaste for Nike is kind of apparent if you ever listen to my show. Documents dating back to 2018 accuse Nike of sexual harassment and gender discrimination with over 5,000 pages of records. That's a lot of records. It's a lot of evidence, a lot of disgrace. I did a whole episode on the downfall of Nike and why the horrible display of discrimination and lawlessness towards females means to runners, what this all means. It truly changed the running world, and it was also became part of the Me Too movement. All this Me Too movement, Nike is part of that. If you are a female and you decide to buy Nike shoes, well, you have to realize that they really are not that supportive of females. They just aren't. They never have been. Their history is not supportive of you. They also are not that supportive of regular everyday runners either, but that's a whole nother thing. They are not supportive of you if you're female. Just let you know. And these couple things recently aren't the most positive, so hopefully we can get into some more positive stuff in running. Doping in running, the running world is sobering to the reality that stronger rules must be made towards those who want to abuse races by cheating through doping. I've talked about this previously. It's a big problem in growing countries like Kenya. It's a huge problem, and it really has to be dealt with more and taken more seriously. It's not a problem in like ultra running because it doesn't help you. Doping will not help you in a 100-mile race. It's just not going to do anything for you. But in a marathon or shorter, it can help you a lot. So it really has to be taken more seriously, and stricter fines and punishments have to be doled out, especially to a lot of these smaller, poorer countries where not in the established areas and established training areas, you'll get these shady characters who take advantage of these innocent younger runners who just want to win and just want to help their families and just want to be in running, and they believe the lies of these shady characters. It's a sad, sad situation. But I think the running committees, the running organizers, the running world really, really has to try to get a handle on this, because I don't think it's going to go away. This problem is not going to go away. It might get even bigger. But those are some events that happened in running, and you can ask yourself, maybe not the older ones, but some of the things like FloJo, or if you're a little older like I am, like the Mexico City Olympics, or the Kipchoge record, where you were when you were watching it or when you heard about it. And it's kind of neat to put all this stuff into perspective and to say, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. It's kind of fun to go back and think about it. Now, I'm going to give my review on the Torin 8 and the Timp 5 shoes, Altra shoes. Okay, now I have been a very loyal Altra shoe wearer for years. I love Altra shoes. I look forward to getting my Altras, and I've been wearing literally nothing but Altra shoes, as far as shoes go, for a very long time. So I don't know, this might be the end of the line for my Altra shoe wearing. These two shoes might be the last Altras I buy. The Torin 8. Okay. I read all these reviews in magazines and all these wearers saying what a great shoe this was. Oh, it's so much better than the 7. It's so much better. The heel is better. The cushioning, it's much stiffer now, which is better, and blah, blah, blah. I liked the soft cushioning of the 6 and 7. The Torin 6 was the perfect shoe. Now, when Torin 5 came out with that god-awful tongue, that was the worst thing they did. They didn't change anything from the 4 to the 5 except that tongue, which cut into the foot horribly. That was like the worst shoe ever made. A tongue can destroy a shoe. Yes, it did the 5. The 6 came out, and the 6 was perfect. Everything was great. It was soft and cushiony. It was nice. Felt great. It was perfect. And the 7 came out, and it was okay. It was a little stiffer. It was all right, but it was still light. The shoe was light. It wasn't heavy, and it felt okay. Now, the 8 comes out. It's heavy shoe. It is heavy. Because it's a lot harder. The heel is harder. It doesn't have that nice, soft, cushiony feeling that I liked. It is heavy. It is harder. I just don't like it as much. I mean, it's okay. I'm going to wear it. It's not terrible, but I'm not raving about it. And all these online articles said how great it was, how it's like the perfect shoe, how they made up for all the mistakes of the 7. What mistakes? 7 was fine. There was no mistakes. No. The 7 was fine. 8, I will not buy another Torin shoe again, though. Unless they make base more cushiony, I will not buy another Torin again. I will probably try the Topo next time. I will switch over to the Topo for the Torin, for my road shoe the next time, because I just feel that they've kind of lost it. I don't know if they're even listening to us wearers or they're just listening to their engineers and magazines. Do they care about who buys? Are you listening, Altra? Are you listening? I don't know. I don't know if they are or not, because they're not listening to anything I'm saying. They don't seem to care or produce what I want. So I probably will not buy another road shoe from Altra. All right, that's the Torin 8. Now, the Timp, I have been a loyal Timp shoe wearer because the Lone Peak doesn't have quite as much cushion on it. And I didn't really like the last Lone Peak I bought, so I went to Timp a few years ago, and I liked the Timp. Now, this last one from the 4 to the 5, I read all the reviews, and most of the reviews hated the 5. They absolutely hated the 5. Now, I tried the 5. I tried the Timp 5 yesterday on a 5.5, almost 6 mile run in the Presidio trail run, and I felt pretty good. It didn't feel bad. I think there might be one hot spot, maybe one that might develop on a longer run, but I can't say that it will or not because it was kind of a shorter run, so we'll see. If it does, I might have to take the shoes back. But as of yesterday, it felt okay. It didn't feel too bad. I will say that they made the toe area a little smaller, and I wish they wouldn't do that. Just stop doing that, Altra. What are you going to make all your shoes now normal, narrow shoes in the toe area? One of the reasons, there's 2 reasons why I buy your shoes: zero drop and wide toe area. If you take away the wide toe area, there's no reason for me to buy your shoes. I'll go to Topo. Again, I'm probably not going to buy the Timp. You continue to have the narrow toe area. No. It's just wrong. You guys are missing what we want. I know. I'm ranting. I'm sorry. But other than that, it felt okay. I saw a lot of the negative remarks about the tongue. The tongue was not a problem. It didn't feel stiff. Everything else felt okay. There's just one little bitty spot that might be a hot spot, but I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just not used to the shoe. I have to tell you, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to go on a longer run next week, probably next Monday, so I'll try it out then and we'll see. But other than that, it was okay. it's not the Temp 4, which I liked way more. So again, I probably will not buy another Temp trail running shoe. I might try on the Lone Peak again to see if it feels any better, but I'll probably go to Topo for that as well. So you probably lost a very faithful, for many years, customer, Altra. So I hope you appreciate that. Hope you know that, yeah, no, I'm probably not going to buy any more Altra shoes. Which is a shame because you were a really good shoe company for many years. Okay, other than that, yesterday was a great day. It was my birthday. Yes, I am OLD. But, I'm continuing on and gearing up my training for my 50-miler in June. And I will tell you more about that next week, probably about how my training is going. That is it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. The website is martharunstheworld.com, and I'll have links for previous shows that I mentioned as well. And if you want to email me, it's martharunstheworld@gmail.com. So until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.